Be prepared and ready to begin by 2:35 and end by 3:15. Data is entered into the spreadsheet before the PLC meeting. Explain, share, and model strategies, practices, tools, and resources, and documented outlines. Speak about students respectively, supportively, and positively. Thumbs up, thumbs down for consensus. Accept and respect the vulnerability that comes with sharing data. Use data rather than opinion or personal experiences. Keep conversation within the whole group. Raise your hand to add comments to the discussion, and equally disperse challenges.
All right, let's start out with some celebrations and gratitude.
We'll have a celebration. They finally dug our footers for our house today. So there's some progress being made.
That's awesome. Feels good.
Natalie had her first observation with her supervisor yesterday.
And it went really,
And it was
really
really
well.
good.
Yeah, it was good.
That's good.
She's not going to tell you that she got a great score, but she did.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I did. So.
That's awesome.
Well, Miss Cowan and I share friends who are finally using notebook paper sideways to line up their
Yes.
digits, and they're seeing much better success that
Awesome.
way.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else have a celebration or gratitude?
My friend has had 2 days now without any incidences.
That's good.
Fabulous. And I am grateful that my husband is coming home tomorrow, and I will no longer be a single parent. Something to celebrate for sure. So today we're looking at our math data from subtraction. This is a revisit of that standard. So you do have your original protocol sheet, or you should, but we're going to use a follow-up protocol today for that. And let me grab those for everybody. This is, remind me what the standard is, Hannah?
For NSBT 4. I think this is our first one.
Yeah.
Is it our first one?
For subtraction.
Yeah, for subtraction.
And do we want to spend 2 minutes or 3 minutes looking at the data? Everybody good with 3 minutes?
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
take
Thumbs up for 3. All right, Taylor, you got your, okay. Everybody feel good about moving on? Thumbs up if you're good to move on. Hey, what did we notice?
I was interested, as I scrolled through mine and a lot of other people's, we were highlighting, it looks like if they missed 4, they missed 5 and 6 too. So I feel like there's a lot of regrouping issues, and with number 3 being much easier, I feel like there's that rigor level of regrouping.
I do feel like the questions, they are scaffolded on purpose, so you notice like the most missed question is that last one, and that's because it's a combination of like it goes to the greatest place, there's zeros, there's a lot of regrouping. So like Bridget was saying, if they showed up in that column, most of the time they showed up in the other ones too. The ones that didn't show up consistently, like I had 2 that only showed up one time and not in the other ones, and it's just because they made a basic fact mistake.
Right.
What I noticed was that most of mine that missed it only missed in one place. And it was a matter of regrouping, or with the zeros they regrouped when they shouldn't have, or they forgot to go back. Stacy?
I'm noticing a lot of my kids are, when they regroup, they're automatically making, like if they're regrouping from the tens place, they'll put a 10 in the ones, but forget to bring up the ones they already had.
Yes.
I'm seeing that more than ever. So my idea, I was thinking, I want to hear what you guys are thinking, is with those kids, I'm going back to my base 10 blocks and just really going through all that. Do you guys have any other ideas of what you're thinking for that?
Like, are you saying that you have, like, when they bring the 10 over, they're just putting the number 10 up there and not the, so I have mine put the 10 in front of the other number that's already there.
Okay.
And that helps a lot, I feel like, with that. Something I noticed too, and I don't know if y'all are noticing this, but I feel like this year a lot of my kids do not know facts.
Yes.
Like, it's,
I'm having to use like your punch strategy
too.
and count up more than I've ever
well,
had
and
to
I've
do.
told mine, I'm like, punch it and count it out. If you don't know the answer, we're not just guessing that it's 6. And a lot of mine are just subtraction errors.
I think that, to that point, that I do that too. I have them put the 10 next to the ones that are already there. And what I'm seeing with some of them though is that they like overlook it when they get ready to actually subtract. So for some of them, I'm like, cross it out and rewrite the number on top. So for some students, that might be the case. Like I've never seen that happen before, but because I've always had them put the 10 in front of the ones that are already there, that does help with that. But you're right. I had one subtract from left to right. And like, that didn't even work. When it didn't work, he just put a 0. Let's talk through, while I add up these other numbers, talk through what are we going to do for the ones that have mastered it, the extensions. We actually did spend time on our extensions before we started this unit. Go team. That was a goal this year, and we actually did that. So we do have some ideas. So if somebody wants to share maybe some that you've pulled from our sheet, I'll pull the sheet up in just a minute and we'll finish these numbers. Go ahead.
I was going to say, my students really enjoy making their own word problems to solve. And bringing in like names of friends that they use and things, putting in their own numbers and having classmates solve them.
Just adding this number a second.
I've had some of my thriving ones help out and like pull some groups and sit 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 and try and explain it with the manipulatives, which helps them and the other child.
I know we talked about this the other day, but that's one thing I've been trying to make sure is my thriving ones actually can explain it with base 10 blocks. Because we've talked about they can do it all day long, but they can't explain it sometimes. So if they can teach it, and I had that conversation with them. I said, if you can teach me, then you know it. And I want you to be able to go and teach other people. And we talked about even letting them go to other classes and help if they're able. So they've been working on that. One of the things I had them do is record, like showing a base 10 block problem. So that's something that we're working towards being able to go, and they can buddy up 1-on-1, but as far as pulling a group, we're not there yet, but we will get there, I think.
Sometimes you can use the error analysis, but they have to like create a problem that has a misconception in solving and then reteach it, like almost reteach how to fix the misconception. Does that make sense? Like they have to think through what mistakes could people make, which really makes them think deeper about what they're doing in the problem and why they wouldn't do some of those things, and what have I seen could happen with these numbers. So even making their own error analysis cards, and then they have to explain what misconceptions kids could make or did make in that problem and how could it be fixed. Like how would you help solve that? Those are independent tasks that if you get your kids are too rambunctious kind of around the room during math, like those are things they can do independently too.
Diane?
And I've started assigning subtraction on Freckle, but one of the things I have them do is like what would be like which difference would be less than, and it gives it, and then it gives them like 4, so they have to solve all 4 and see which one would be less than what's given to them.
Well, and that's going to be something similar to what's on the test, because there's one that's like which
And,
one
like,
has a
pick
sum
all.
greater than, and like a pick all. So that is a good thing to start doing.
That on the PD newsletter that y'all got, the little station card, there's one that is a poplet, and you could stick a difference there, and then your kids could create all the equations that would result in that difference. And so then they have to, like Diane was saying, work all and kind of come up with all these numbers, and you could say, I want some to have subtraction across zeros, I want some to have regrouping across multiple numbers. Like you can kind of model that for your higher kids, but then they could work on that and come up with 100, they could come up with 5. So even your kids who aren't that great at it still can see success. And you can get PD credit if you try it, let me know.
So just a refresher that at the top of our data sheet, that standard is linked. And then all of these activities that we're discussing and ideas that we're sharing are found at the bottom there for extensions. One part of the agenda today was, do we want to follow up with these students this early on? And looking at that level of proficiency, I think we probably can all agree that that probably would be a good idea. So that just means that now this is a new opportunity for us, right? Because we have shared tier 2 time. So that means now that we can start dividing those students up among ourselves. Like I mentioned to everybody on Tuesday, I think it's important to be intentional about our language. These are our students. And so that success rate is a reflection of all of us, okay? We've got, and I think there's a lot of conceptual things that we're dealing with. I think that's been some of the discussion at the table today. So ways that we can address that. Does everybody feel, generally when we do tier 2 and we start sorting students, we kind of talk about who feels, most equipped to handle this particular way of teaching it. Is it fair to say that everybody feels pretty comfortable teaching subtraction with regrouping? Or does it look here like is there anything on here
I mean,
that would indicate that somebody's got some better strategies? Lauren's got some good stuff going on here for sure. Sydney, good job. Great job, Sydney. You are knocking it out of the park.
Well, and one thing I noticed with Sydney's is that she does have a higher percentage. So like the tier 1 piece was solid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so we talk about how you can't intervene your way out of tier 1, and with only 46%, that's a pretty high amount that y'all would be intervening with. So it might be circling back to some tier 1 things, and maybe even taking a second to pause and ask Sydney and maybe some other people, like, when you're doing whole group instruction, what are some things that you feel like you modeled and saw kids do that worked?
That is a good question. Sydney, what are you doing?